All right, so just in case the video did not have enough example problems for you, I thought that I would do some of the worksheet just so you can kind of see what you're doing there. So for number 1 and 2, they give you the function itself written out in words. And so all you have to do is reverse the words. So I'll do number 2 just because it has more steps that are a little bit more complicated. So you're going to take a number, and then you're going to undo each of these steps and you're going to do it backwards. So the last thing they did was divide by 2, so you're going to multiply by 2. Then before that they added 5, so you're going to subtract 5. Before that they squared it, so you're going to square root it. And that's all you have to do. Just reverse, undo each of the operations. All right. Let's go ahead and look at, number 5. So we're going to go ahead and our first step is to trade the x and the y. And we're going to do order of operations backwards. So first thing we do is see if there's anything we could add or subtract over to the other side. I can see that there's a -7 on the end, and I can go ahead and add that to the other side. So I have x plus 7 equals negative square root of y plus 4. The next thing that I want to do is I want to see if there's anything I can multiply or divide to the other side. There is a negative that I can go ahead and multiply or divide to the other side. Now over here, you can technically leave it as a fraction, x plus 7 over -1, but most people don't do that. Most people would actually divide it by -1. There's a few different ways it could be seen. So they could divide it. You could divide it by -1 and write -x minus 7. Some people will do that. Some people would take the negative and just move it to the front of the problem, which now that I'm looking at the answers that I have here is actually what I can see that I did when I made the solution paper. So it doesn't really matter to me what you did, but actually I'll leave that there. But since this worksheet has a set of answers that go with it, I'm just going to kind of show you what I did. So basically I just took the negative and I moved it to the front. So I took a -1 and then I have x plus 7. So there's a few different ways to do that step that are all right. But this is the method that I use. This is what matches the answer key. All right, next we have to get rid of the square root. So when it says e, it either means that you're going to use an exponent to undo something, or you have to undo an exponent. So here we're actually going to use an exponent to undo the square root. So I've got negative of x plus 7, that's being squared, equals y plus 4. And then last is parentheses, and sometimes it's parentheses, it's just basically you're getting at the inside. And the thing that was the inside was the y plus 4, so now we can go ahead and just subtract 4 off the end. So I'm going to say y equals negative of x plus 7 squared with a minus 4 on the end. And then at the very end of the problem, we go back and we make sure that our notation is in correct inverse notation. So I'm going to say y inverse equals negative x plus 7 squared minus 4. And then if you look at the answer choices, you can see that that matches answer J. And the blank in here is just for you to write your correct inverse notation, since all of the problems are a little bit different. Some of them are y equals, some of them are f of x equals, and so you would just put your correct notation in there. All right, so that one is J. All right, let's do number 6. So they said 4/9 x plus 15. There's a hint. Think of it as 4x over 9. I'm going to think of this as a y to start with. So I'll go ahead and trade my x and my y. And I went ahead and I took the advice. I took the little hint here. And instead of thinking it like this, I thought of it like this when I traded my x and my y. Okay, so first I'm going to see if there's anything I can add or subtract. Then I'll see if there's anything I could multiply or divide over. So the 15 can be subtracted. X minus 15 equals 4y divided by 9. All right, and then after that, we're going to see if there's anything that can be multiplied or divided. This is a 9 I can multiply. So I'm just going to multiply on each side by 9. So I have 9 being multiplied by x minus 15. It has to be in parentheses because it's being multiplied by the whole group. Then I look to see if there's an exponent I could introduce or an exponent I could get rid of. There's nothing, you know. And then I guess we could kind of think of this as the inside, or we could think of this as like there were 2 multiply and divide steps. I'm actually going to do that instead. So our first step is we multiplied by 9. Our second step will be that we're going to divide by 4. So we have y equals 9 times x minus 15 over 4. And then we just want the notation of the problem to be correct. So here we didn't have y equals to start with. We had f of x. And so I'm going to say f inverse of x equals 9 times x minus 15 over 4. And there's my answer. Now, if you wanted, you could have distributed the 9. That would have been fine. It would have looked different than the answers on the back, but it still would have been right. So if I look, that matches B. This is f inverse of x. And so that answer over here is B. All right, let's go ahead and do number 12. So first, I'm going to think of this as y. First, I'm going to trade my x and my y. Forgot to make that a y. All right, so after that, we go ahead and we do order of operations backwards. So the thing that could be added or subtracted to the other side is the 7 on the end. X plus 7 equals 3. All right, then we want to see if there's anything we can multiply or divide over. We can divide by 3. Then we want to see if there's an exponent we can get rid of, or an exponent we could introduce to get rid of something else. We have an exponent of 2 that we want to get rid of, so I can go ahead and square root and square root. And then I have this equals y plus 8. So now I am to the parentheses, and I'm just getting the stuff that was inside the parentheses out. So now I can go ahead and just subtract the 8. So I've got y equals the square root with a minus 8 on the end. And then I go back to the original problem, and I want to make sure that my notation makes sense for the problem. So that was g of x. That means that my answer is g inverse of x. All right, let's go ahead and do number 13. So again, I'm just going to say this is y. Trade my x and my y to start. So first, I'm going to see if there's anything I could add or subtract to the other side. There's a 14. Next, I'm going to see if there's anything I could multiply or divide to the other side. There's a -1. And I'm going to do exactly what I did on that other problem. I'm just going to take that negative and I'm just going to move it up to the front. So negative of x minus 14. And again, with this step, there are multiple ways you could do it. I'm just doing it this way because this is what matches the worksheet. So if you wanted to distribute that negative and have negative x plus 14, you could absolutely do that and you're not wrong. All right, next I want to see if there's an exponent to get rid of or if I could introduce an exponent to make something go away. There is an exponent to get rid of. It's a 3, so I'm going to cube root to get rid of the 3. So now all that I have left is the stuff that was originally inside the parentheses, and so now I can deal with that. I can subtract the 5 over. So I've got y equals the third root, or the cube root, negative x minus 14 with a -5 on the end. And to put this in the correct notation, I have to go back to the beginning of the problem. I see a g of x, so that means that I must have g inverse of x. And actually, I didn't look for that last problem, so we can go ahead and do both of these. So h goes with number 12. That was g inverse. And then it looks like number 13 goes with L. That's also g inverse.